I think the sim helps you young guys now a lot. Something that wasn't available 25 years ago to drivers. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sim is for me key. I love sim. You know, it's a passion. It's not only a tool of work, but I'm passionate about it. You know, I love going back home on a Sunday night after the race and sit in my sim and drive.
Not on Sunday night after a race.
Yeah, like Zandvoort. You know, I came back Sunday night.
And then went straight on the sim.
Yeah.
Having done a Grand Prix that day.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not work for me. I love, you know, it's different. When you love doing something, you don't see it as a work, and then you don't see it as like, oh, why would I jump in the sim on a Sunday night? No, why? Like,
I thought you might have done enough driving for one day.
no, but I mean, it's never enough. The amount of laps I do in a day when I'm practicing is not even close. A Grand Prix is not even close to what I do in a day of sim. The Grand Prix is 70 laps. I do, I don't know, 150, 200 laps when I'm practicing. So, I don't know, it's just different. You know, I love doing it. I think it's very good for my, to keep it up with the speed and to, you know, the same movement. And I like to, every time I finish, that's why I jump on a Sunday night, because it's when you have everything fresh in your mind. So you set up the throttle and the brake exactly how you had a couple of hours ago, the steering weight and everything. So you can set it in the perfect way, you know?
So on Sunday night of Zandvoort, did you drive Zandvoort again in the sim?
Correlate, yes. But it's not the only track. I've done this year already many times.
Did you learn anything in particular on Sunday night?
No, I mean, I've obviously, you know, you finish the weekend with a knowledge much better than what you started. Then yes, in the sense I came back home with things I didn't know before the weekend when I started in the sim, knowing much better. But I didn't learn something in the sim on Sunday night, but I made my sim better. I made the pedal better. I made the steering weight better. I made the car more realistic, because you can make the setup of the car similar to what I had in the weekend. So for the next track, that is Monza, when I went on Monday to practice again, I had a car that, let's say, is much more realistic than what I would have the weekend before. You know?
I find this fascinating, and I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Gerhard Berger about Ayrton Senna, in that Gerhard said to me that Max Verstappen is a better racing driver than Senna ever was. And I thought that was a very strong statement coming from him, given that they were teammates at McLaren.
They were very good
I
friends.
said, why? And he said, because of the sim. If you drive the sim the whole time, you get better. Practice starts. All the things that you've just described, and none of that was available to Ayrton. If he'd had a sim, even Ayrton Senna could have been a better racing driver.
Absolutely. But back in the time, even data was very limited. Sim, you didn't have the live onboards and things. So the Formula One world evolved a lot in the last 30 years. And it's natural that a new generation will get more data, more information to improve comparing to, let's say, the older drivers. This doesn't make them worse or better than us. You know, what I get fascinated about Senna, and I always say it, is that Senna, for me, was ahead of his generation. So it's like if he was today ahead of the sim generation, in the sense like he would be in a step ahead in 10 years. In 10 years, people would be doing things that he was doing already 10 years before. So that's what I find fascinating about him, because he was the game changer. It's the same as Michael Schumacher. You know, when you hear histories about him, he was a game changer in many topics. You know, in the physical condition, you know, he was putting the bar up. You know, he was setting things in another level. And that's what I find fascinating about Senna, Schumacher, and, for example, Max with the sim. I think he was the first real driver to get these sim things very serious. Even if nowadays in the grid there is still, I think 90% of the grid doesn't do sim at home, but they do a lot in the factory, you know, but they don't do at home. But I don't know, maybe in 10 years, I'm quite sure in 10 years, you will see drivers here sitting that they're going to be nerds talking about sim and playing the whole day at home, because that's what they grow up with, you know.
How much have you studied Senna? Because he had that very unique throttle application, didn't he? When he used to pop.
I've asked so many people about that already.
Have you tried it on one of these? Have you tried?
It doesn't work. You know, there's no turbo lag or anything with these F1 cars recently. But it wouldn't work. You know, we have the differential of the car that is it's linked with the throttle. So if you hit the throttle, the diff locks and everything. So it wouldn't work in nowadays car, but it worked for him back in the time. And I asked so many people that used to work with him back in the time, why did he do that? And they explained me, you know, for
the
the
turbo
RPM.
lag, right?
Yeah, turbo lag plus the RPMs, you know, he never wanted to let it drop so much. So he wanted to keep it high and the turbo, you know, working for when he goes on power. He has a very good exit. So it was something that he was the only one able to do.
For all of this sim conversation we're having, is there a little bit of you that wishes there was more on-track testing?
Absolutely. Yes.
Because there's no replacement for doing it for real, right?
No, I mean, sim is the replacement, trying to replace the test we cannot have in real life. But if we could choose between, do you prefer doing sim or the amount of days you're doing the sim in the real track, 100% real track? I mean, sim is just good because we don't have time on track. But that's the only reason why we do it.
And you could try some really interesting things on track that maybe you don't try in the sim. Tell me if I'm wrong, but Mika Hakkinen once, when he was at McLaren, tried a hand throttle because he believed it was a shorter distance between your hand and your brain than your foot and your brain. So he wanted to try to see if it was better using a hand throttle. Just crazy stuff like that.
That's interesting. Yes, but you are also able to test this nowadays in the sim.
I
Like
suppose
a
you can.
hand
It's
throttle.
kind of actually much easier, isn't it?
But what you
probably?
cannot test is like, I don't know, aero development that you do in your car. You cannot, like, you can put it in the sim, but how much can you rely on that? You know, maybe it's not 100% accurate, but when you put in the real track is the real thing, you know? So what happens there is going to be in the race weekend. Plus, like in the sim, we have very good track models and car models, but they are never 100% accurate. They are close to it, but like tracks like Zandvoort, you know, that is a very banking T3. It doesn't exist any sim that gives you the feeling of how much banking there is in that corner in real life. You know, you don't feel the G-forces, you don't feel a lot of things that you do in real life. So that's only in the real life feeling you have.
Yeah. And is there a crazy bit of technology that you would like to try in Formula One? A bit like Mika and his hand throttle?
Wow, you got me with this question because I never stopped to... Maybe I give you at the end of the show, like at the end of the podcast, we talk about it. I will think about it.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because
there's a lot of things that could have been tried.
I sometimes think if the FIA didn't regulate Formula One to the extent that it has to for safety reasons, where would the cars be now? It's, you know,
I don't think drivers would be able to drive the cars. That's the reality.
you'd be blacking out because the G-force is too high.
You would pass out, man. In
Yeah.
the middle of the corner, G-force would kill you.
Yeah.